I felt a little lost in that position because I've never really thought of myself as a leader. And so I didn't know what I was doing in that team lead position in the first place. And I also felt that I needed to experience, different workplaces and different teams, so that I can take those experiences and become a person that could be a team lead versus somebody.
Welcome to Adapt or Die, real stories behind leaders' biggest pivots. My name is Andreas Pedersen, and you are hearing our Power Without Permission miniseries. This is a miniseries that showcases the up-and-coming book Power Without Permission, where me and 13 amazing, brilliant women leaders are talking about the massive changes we have been through in life and what you can accomplish by doing the same. The podcast is still the same 3 acts and breakdown, new raw stories designed to move you from challenge to action. Today, how Kana stopped letting fear drive her and let purpose lead. Welcome so much to the show, Kana.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to dive straight into this. Tell me about that moment where fear was just stagnating you. 5 minutes before you realize it, what's going on in your head? What is that moment where you realize, like, I got to do something different? Otherwise, my life will not be as great as I want it to be.
I think honestly, I have two pivotal moments that I would put them equally important in my life. The first one was when I was going through my grad school, trying to get a master's in computer science. And I was stressing myself out so much because I just felt that I could not get through the program. I was going to fail out, disappoint my parents, my family, and ultimately look like a failure. And stressing myself out so badly that I was losing hair. My body was physically fighting itself. So that was kind of a wake up call. I figured, okay, I need to change my mindset at least so that I can mentally be at a better place. So then my physical would also, get there eventually. So instead of kind of going into all of my homework and my projects, all of the different things I had to do for school with a mindset of I'm going to fail, I'm scared, I can't do this. I just kind of went more head in of I have to do this because I cannot fail. And then the other pivotal moment would be when I almost left my role at previously Hercules and try to go to a different place because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't feel that I deserved to be in this leadership position that I was. I led, a small group of engineers, but I felt that I just got there out of pure luck. And I almost left. I had great mentors that were pushing me into the leadership potential that they saw me having that I could not see. So had I left and ran away, right? I don't think I would be where I am today, as a leader. So, yeah.
And and I want to add here for the listeners that when you're a leader of a company and you're hiring these people, and every now and then someone walks through the door and they're just raw talent, like super smart, super good at what they do. That's how I met Kana. I saw she started out as an intern at Hercules, where I was CEO, and I'm like, wow, she got potential. And yeah, we're going to tell the story about that as well. I just want to go back to the school days here. So the common story here in both of these is you are faced with that one moment where it's fight or flight, and something in you triggers you to fight. Something in you realizes, like, I got to do this differently. What is that? Where does that drive come from, you think?
I think it's I've always had the fear of everything, honestly. I just feared that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't do things. In those moments, the fear of failure specifically kind of took over, in a sense of I cannot fail. Maybe some other things could happen, but the failure piece was the one thing that I couldn't allow myself to do. And, in the beginning, it was, I can't fail because of, I don't want my family seeing me the way in that light, and more just outside, um, effects, I guess. But um, in those moments, it was just, I truly don't want to fail. Like, I don't want to allow myself to fail. So the fear of failure, is just what took over and just told me I have to get through it.
I've heard that so many times before, Kana, and one of the sort of the balance in people's head is what is worse, the emotion of fighting against my fear or the feeling of the failure? What the biggest problem is that a lot of people get stuck way too long going down that route. And when it's too late, it feels like it's better to just fail than to keep feeling what I'm feeling. And one of the main reasons for that is not really taking action earlier. Does that resonate with you as well? And how can you take action more earlier before you're losing hair or have physical issues because of your stress level?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you allow yourself to get deeper and deeper into that hole that you're digging yourself, it's going to be a lot more daunting to tell yourself, "Just do it," right? Whereas if you catch yourself a little bit earlier, the fear hasn't really grown, as big as it could, so it's a little bit easier to just tell yourself to kind of get through it, rather than the fear being this large, daunting thing that now it's going to take a lot more effort to get yourself through.
Could you tell the listeners a little bit more about your background, your sort of background story before you ended up in college, and what from that sort of childhood and early years do you think formed you to be brave enough to fight fear versus the failure as an option?
Yeah, so I was born in Japan, but most of my life I've been out in the United States. Moved out here when I was 5. But I started as somebody that could not speak English, so definitely struggled a lot in school. Even just the social aspect of school, I struggled. I misunderstood people, and I think that is kind of what gave me that fear of judgment because I misunderstood people and I immediately thought, "Oh, they don't wanna be my friend," as a 1st grader. And so that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. Oh, no, I forgot the question. Sorry, Andreas.
What was
Let
the
me read you.
process? All good. What was sort of, what do you think from the early years formed you to still be able to face fear and not give up?
Mm.
Because you went through this transition. I know you had the immigrant, the fear of being judged, but something in you still goes like it's not okay to fail. Like I have to fail fast forward if I'm going to fail. But what is sort of that moment where you go from fear of being judged into taking action? What do you think that was the like what changed in your childhood or as a young adult to make you be able to do that change? What I'm trying to ask you, Kana, is this. Some people go through their entire life living with fear as fear of being judged, fear as everything, and they can't turn it into microaction. You had the most pressure as an immigrant coming here. And this is what in your story where I'm like, okay, you have this fear of judgment, but something in you is like failure is even worse. And you took microaction to change something. And I actually don't know the answers. I am genuinely
Yeah.
curious to figure out like what was it? Was it the I gotta change, I can continue like this, or what is sort of the thing from your childhood that made you make all these changes you do today? And today I know you and you're doing amazing changes.
I think it might be just the incremental small successes that I did see myself going through, that allowed me to eventually flip my mindset from the fear of I can't do this to, oh, look, I did these little things that are actually making me feel better, making me feel confident. I'm not spewing out confidence yet, at least in my childhood, but I could see those small wins that made me feel better about myself. And so I try to find those little moments that I could kind of push myself little by little. It doesn't need to be giant steps um, to get myself to where I wanted to be.
I love that answer. And for the listeners, what Kana is saying here is if you don't do even a micro action, just something small, become a cheerleader, do anything in your life, and that's Kana's background. Do something. And the point is, if you do something, your brain slowly start adapting to this is something maybe I can do. And stop looking at what you can't do and look at the proof of what you actually have done. And I saw that in Archilles as well. And let's shift over to the second part of the story here. You said early on in the introduction that you decided to, hey, I'm leaving, and this was like a pivotal moment. Can you walk us through that scenario and why did you end up staying, and what have you got from it today?
Yeah, so I was probably 2, almost 3 years in at Arcules. I'm grown out of the internship. I'm a software engineer. Um, s- Confident enough to be working on developer tasks, right? But at that time, I had just recently landed the team lead position. So instead of just being, a team member, I led 3 or 4 engineers. But I felt that I just landed that position because that team lead role needed to be filled, and it was kind of like a team vote. So I
Couldn't be
didn't
further
really.
from the truth. I have to add that because Kana is a freaking rock star. She's super smart and an amazing leader. So it has nothing to do with luck, but please continue.
Yeah, so I still didn't feel that I had the leadership potential. I didn't really. Obviously, I was trying to be the best team lead that I could be, but I just didn't feel that I deserved this position. And being 2 or 3 years into being a software engineer, I felt that I had to go to another company just to experience different things. So I got a new job, but it was not a team leader position. It was just a regular individual contributor job. And I went ahead and told my managers, and everybody asked why. What are you doing? What is this position? And why aren't you going into another leadership position? And that kind of flipped a switch in my brain of, oh, I guess these people, my mentors, do see that I excel and have leadership potential, and that I shouldn't be going back down necessarily just to be, a team member, but I should continue leading um individuals and leading teams. And that should be my next position.
What conversation did you have to have with sort of your inner critic there, or the imposter in you, or the person that is saying that you're not a team leader? And like, were you self sabotaging? Were you fleeing away from the situation? Like, what was going on in your mind there?
I would say a little bit of both. I felt a little lost in that position because I've never really thought of myself as a leader. And so I didn't know what I was doing in that team lead position in the first place. And I also felt that I needed to experience, different workplaces and different teams, so that I can take those experiences and become a person that could be a team lead, versus somebody that felt that or at least I felt that I just landed this role.
You didn't, and I can tell so I was heavily involved in this, so was another person, Jeff Consoman, and if I remember, Ben Rowe as well was heavily involved, maybe even Morton at the time. All of us had identified Kana as a really up and coming star, super loyal to the company, but not only that, everyone else was levitating to her leadership, asking her for advice. And she was the one who always like, come on, team, we can get this across the finish line. We can honor the deadline. So everything she was doing was leadership. And she it was like a shock for us when we were like, okay, you're going to a job where you're not a leader. Like, kind of, I'm not kidding. You should have heard some of the conversations we had internally at that moment. Does it take someone else to realize it? Or was that like, you mentioned this was like the wake up moment. And if you were to go back, so number one, does it take someone else to realize this? And number two, what would you go back? If you could go back 10 years and tell yourself, or 5 years and tell yourself, do these things differently, what would you tell yourself?
I think the main thing would be have more confidence in yourself and know your strengths, and own your strengths, honestly. Because I think that would have set me up better so that I could have figured out that I do have the leadership potential. But I do feel that I've been very lucky to have those mentors that kind of guided me into and helped me kind of discover my strengths, since I didn't really figure out my strengths when I was younger, or at least did not put much thought into it.
I know it's a tough conversation, and I'll just share something very personal with you. One of the things, you're now in this leadership role. You and I used to do walk in talks. This was it pre-COVID? I don't even remember
Yes,
anymore. Time flies.
pre-COVID, yeah.
Pre-COVID, I remember there was a meeting and you were using a very California word all the time in your conversations with the executives or higher ups, and you were using the word like. And I just want to emphasize how quickly Kana can take something and just snap it into it instantly. I'm not, and now I'm going to jinx myself in using the word like in between every single word here. What ended up happening was that it made her sound less like a leader, and there were multiple people that had noticed it, me included. So we went for a walk and talk. I mentioned it to you, and you switched your mind instantly. Like, okay, I'm just going to change that. And you probably have to work on it. But once you are aware of something, Kana, you just work on it until it's done. And today you barely, I don't think you have done it once even. But tell me about that whole process. What went in on your brain just on that small little thing? And what's the perception? How did you change people's perception after changing the word like?
I think, well, first of all, I was very embarrassed that that was a feedback that I had to get from you. I was just like, great. I sound like this California. Oh, here comes my legs. This California girl. But I also think that I was putting the word like in a lot of my sentences for a couple different reasons. One, because I was a little bit nervous about certain things I was saying. Maybe I was talking to, my team, or I was giving a presentation that I was a little bit nervous about, right? And so putting the like in kind of made me feel a little less pointy, a little less direct with my messaging, because I was afraid to say what I needed to say, right? That was one thing. And that I was kind of, it was my way to kind of hide behind this word, so that I didn't have to be as direct. And then that kind of goes on to my next point of, yeah, the word like was taking away from me sounding like a leader, but also just me sounding more confident in what I'm trying to say and the message I'm trying to get across. So yeah, I really felt okay. This is great feedback. A little embarrassing, but I really need to not use this word as much, um, just so that my message, what I'm trying to say, really sticks and resonates with whoever is listening to me.
Correct. And I think that one of the biggest growth areas you did as a leader, and I want to point this out for the listeners because we are actually highlighting this in the book in multiple occasions. Not only is it about facing fear, it's the fear of being judged for as an authoritative leader. And people are that often come into a leadership role early on, they might have been mistreated or they have the angry dad syndrome. I'm not saying you have that, but someone have yelled at them earlier in their life. And now they're so afraid to be authoritative. And for me, kind of authoritative isn't a man or a woman thing. It just is what a leader needs to be, warm but firm. And I think it takes people years to overcome those steps. You mastered it in a matter of months and commanded respect from your team after that point. And you're still a very humble, soft spoken person as your personality, and always happy and bubbly and all these things. With that said, when it mattered, you stepped in and you directed the team. So they stopped leading you, you started leading them. And all of that came from one little word combined with you just, okay, I'm just going to be this leader I want to be. I summed it up for you. What do you
Yes, you
think
did.
would be the cost, Kana, if you didn't do this change? If you were not eager to keep moving forward, what would be the cost of your life? Where would you be at today? Mindset wise and professionally.
I think mindset wise, I would be constantly living in fear of just doing anything. So it would take, so let's say I have this one thing I need to do, and it would take me probably 3 to 4 times longer than, the me now that I'm just in the just do it mode, right? Um, so yeah, it would just take me a lot longer to just get over things and get things done, I would say. And professionally, I think I would honestly just be an individual contributor if I didn't really make these changes that I made. And I don't think I would really see myself in any type of leadership position because I would just still be stuck in second guessing myself and not feeling that I could be a leader anyways. So might as well just put my head down and just pump out work, right?
Do it and just do it scared, basically.
Yep, exactly.
Where are you at today in terms of these emotions? Does it pop up as often in your head? I can't do this. How often is fear there and how do you recognize it?
I would say I still do have the fear, but not as much. And I think I see it in different areas now. Back when I was first going through school and first started as an intern, I would say that I was afraid to talk to people in general, and also afraid to do my software engineer work. I didn't feel that I was good enough. But now I feel more confident, at least on like the technical side of my life. I definitely am still afraid to say, have like direct conversations, especially when it's giving a little bit more critical feedback to my direct reports. But I've kind of figured that I need to give I need to be able to be direct. I need to be authoritative, right? As that leader. So now I just kind of put down some notes of what are the points I need to make. And then I make those points. I get it done. I don't say I'll do it in 2 weeks. I know you've heard that so many times. Yeah, 2 weeks, I'll do it. I just do it so that it's off my plate. I'm done. And we can move on to the next thing that will probably bring me fear, but I'll still do it anyways.
And I think that's an internal joke between us. I always asked Kana, I said, what is the right thing to do? And she said, to do the following. And I said, okay, so when are you going to start doing that? And she always replied, in 2 weeks. And I'm like, why not today? Why not now? Why not? Like, why would you put yourself through 2 weeks of pain and suffering to just get the same outcome you can get right now from a 5-minute phone call? And I think you have shifted your mind to you don't wanna waste time. That's kind of what you're saying. You just get it done and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to waste time. And I also don't want to give myself all that time to think about it and dwell over it, because that just brings me down into the fear again. And I'm trying to stay afloat away from that fear as much as possible, on my day to day. So,
You have definitely gone from reactive to proactive when it comes to that. And for those listening here, again, I just want to point out the culture upbringing, where you were born, all these things. It's not the normal way of sort of doing it. And here in US and especially in California, it's still kind of okay to be indirect. But here in US, I would argue a great leader, warm and firm, and you're wasting time and resources for the company unless you actually just do it right now when you know you have to do it. And you get so much anxiety and everything else. Um, Tell me a little bit, what have shifted now in terms of also not only relationship with your reports or your team members, have this also shifted how you manage upwards in the organization, and how has it shifted?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah, managing up has, been a struggle for sure. And I am definitely a lot more direct now, when I manage up, when I give feedback to my managers. Definitely always have some room to grow and become better at that. But I am able to be a lot more open, with my managers, so that we can kinda continue to improve our relationship, work better with each other, and I definitely got a lot more comfortable with, uh, managing, like, my direct reports first, of course, so managing up is kind of the next thing that I am still constantly working on, but it's definitely getting easier each day.
I think you got way further than you think. You just said, when I give feedback to my manager. That
Mhm.
for me is a person who just face fear, because that is way harder than giving feedback to your own employees, your direct reports.
Definitely. It's a lot scarier, but just gotta do it.
You just got to do it. I love that. Okay, let's move on to rapid fire. So rapid fire means I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First thing that comes to your mind, it just is what it is, and if you feel like pass, that's okay as well. So, what's one belief you have retired?
That I can't do this, whatever this is, uh, because how do I know that I can't do it if I haven't even tried it? Yeah, I definitely when something new comes to me, I don't go in with the "I can't do it," but I try to go in with the "just do it, see what happens."
And I have to ask you a follow-up question. Do you do self-talk, or do you do things like, "Kana, just stop it, just do it"? Or how do you like, what do you tell your own brain in those situations?
Yeah, definitely the kinda just do it. Why are you doubting yourself? You don't even know what's gonna happen, so let's just do it.
I love that answer. What's one rule that you broke to improve the outcomes?
Oh, pass.
Pass on that one? Okay.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
Because you don't break rules. I know you. You're very by the book. So I like that. Okay. Finish this sentence. Power without permission means.
Means that you don't even have to give yourself permission to go do things. You can just go do it.
No one is waiting for you. Like, you just do it. Exactly. Okay, this one you might be able to master, but let's see. What's one micro ritual, or how do you prepare before a hard conversation?
I write down everything I have to say and kind of go over that. So these are already to the point things that I have to get out. And then when I go into that conversation, I just go down that line. I go over it a couple times, so it's already in my memory. I don't allow the inner critic, the doubting voices of each of these points I have to make come in. I just go down that line.
Like it. What do you think happens if you're not constantly inspecting and adapting and trying to make a change of who you are, life, and everything else? What will happen with you then?
I think ultimately I would be unhappy, um, because I definitely feed off of, being able to reflect and kinda see, "Oh, okay, this is where I made an improvement. This is where I grew a little bit." And it makes me happy. Um, Even just little things of, I reflect on my day at the end of the day, and I can point out, "Oh, this was good, this was good." Those things make me happy. And so I think that if I didn't do any of these things, I would just be unhappy. And that is not who I am. I am definitely the glass is half full, bubbly cheerleader. So,
Everything is possible. I love it. Okay, for any of the listeners out there, Kana chapter in the book Power Without Permission is very, how do I say, easy to relate to for anyone who's been have had imposter syndrome, insecure overachiever. However, I want to point out when you read the chapter, she is really, really, really facing fear every single time it bubbles up. And you can kind of hear it today in the conversation again. She pushes it down, she just takes a step forward, and she gets the results and she just keeps moving. So you have really moved from being stagnant to an action taker, Kana. And I want to applaud you from that. I've seen you grow tremendously over the years. For the listeners, where can they find you? Who should be reaching out to you?
you can find me on LinkedIn. And who should be reaching out to me? Anybody that relates to my story. I hope that I can help you get through things that are similar to what I've gone through.
Kana, thank you so much for doing this. This was another thing on your list. I haven't done it before, and I'm just going to do it. So I'm super impressed. For everyone else listening, please go to leadersadapt.com/book. We're launching the book on September 25. Also, if anything from this conversation today resonated with you, please go to Apple Podcast, leave a 5-star review. You're not helping me only, but you're also definitely helping other leaders out there who could really benefit from hearing all the wisdom that Kana shared with us today. Last thing, if you're in leadership, we must adapt to thrive, or otherwise we don't survive. Have an amazing time. Thank you, everyone.